everyone, Danielle Carpino here of Humble Tree Homestead. Welcome to our channel. We're very happy to have you here. We are on week 5 of garden tours for the 2023 growing year. We're in Washington State, Zone 7, and temperatures are rising and it's getting warm and the garden is starting to explode. Let's take a look. We have the Shishito Peppers. This is that Asian herb. You can see it is growing very well, filling in this space nicely. I think this is such a neat looking plant. If nothing else, I would suggest even just growing it in your garden for the beauty of it or around your landscaping, because it's just really neat how the front side of the leaves are this really pretty green color, and then the back is this really deep burgundy color. It's just really a neat looking plant. The flavor profile of it is going to be basil, mint, anise kind of flavor to it, and it's just a very unique and interesting one. I found this at the Bug Girl based off of Red Mountain in Benton City, and it's just a really fun and unique flavor. Then we have the favorite of the Humble Tree Homestead, the Shishito Peppers. Yum, yum, yummy, yum, get in my tummy tum. Anyways, they are, as you can see, continuing to grow, continuing to thrive, continuing to set on blossoms, and giving us plenty of fruits. There have been 2 harvests off of it so far. We need to actually go in and harvest off this plant. We have plenty that are ready to be picked again. These are prolific growers for us in the garden this year. They're doing really good, which we're very happy about. You can see that they're growing outside the cage now. They're just their own entity in the garden space. We have what we've decided to call Wilbur, like the pig off Charlotte's Web, the runt of our family, the California green bell pepper that is not quite wanting to be an adult yet. It's still enjoying its life as a child, and we're just gonna let it live its best life in the garden space, just bringing joy and happiness to the world. You know, kids bring laughter, so we're just gonna let it continue to do what it does and just be Wilbur. Our sweet Carlina, as you can see, is continuing to grow. It's very tall in our garden, and the peppers on it are just very large. We are patiently awaiting for it to change colors because I am very curious what the sweet pepper is going to taste like, but we are noticing that there is a shift in gradients in color. Up there you can see it's a darker green and it works into a more vibrant yellow. If I am correct, this will be a red pepper. The color changes go green, yellow, orange, and then red on peppers. We're getting there, as you can see by this pepper. It is starting to do the color shifts and changes, and hopefully pretty soon we're going to be able to experience what this pepper is like, probably in the next couple of weeks. look at that beautiful raspberry echinacea coneflower. Isn't it so pretty? I just really enjoy this one. As I was telling you guys last week, it just really brings a pop of joy and happiness and color to this garden space, and I love it so much. And I love the contrast of the white flowers next to this really bright pink raspberry colored one. Gorgeous. In case you want to look for this one for your garden next year, that's the one that it is. It's just beautiful. I got this one at our local nursery called Yellow Rose, and I'm glad that I got this one because it is just pure happiness and joy. I'm trying to show you guys all the little pollens in it, the gorgeous petal pattern, that nice little cone center on it. Our banana pepper is starting to produce more peppers on it again. As you can see looking in there, there are peppers that are starting to form. We're also getting ones on the outside, little tiny buddies. We're getting buds in it, and we're excited. We want it to keep producing for us so that we can be putting up some pepperoncinis for the next year. The lemon drop pepper. This is that first of the 2 spicy peppers in our garden space. It is a smaller pepper, as you can see next to my fingers. It's not a large pepper. And this one is supposed to be a kind of fruit profile with the spice. So my husband is really excited to give this one a whirl and try it. Whenever it is ripe, you'll know because it'll turn a really bright yellow color. We will show you guys that when it's ready. They are starting to get slight fading of the color from the dark green into a kind of yellow green, so it's working that direction. It just is going to take a little bit more time, but I have a feeling pretty soon we're going to start seeing these really change color, and maybe I can get my husband to come on camera and talk about the pepper whenever he tries it and let you guys know what he thinks of it, because I will not be eating it. I do not do spicy. The plant is doing great new growth on it, lots and lots of blossoms throughout, which means this one is going to be a prolific grower for us this year. Maybe a fun variety for you guys to try next year in your garden if you like spicy peppers and we end up telling you that we like it. I mean, obviously you can try things that we don't like, but hopefully we can give you a little bit more of an idea of what it's like once we've tried it. Basil plant a few videos ago was not doing good. I honestly did not know that this was gonna make it through this season. It was really kind of not growing, where the leaf patterns were all starting to look like this, where they were really faded on the outside, kind of looking just lackluster, didn't have color. You could just tell that something was wrong with the plant, and I have no idea what made it turn around, but it turned around and it's doing really good. Last night I harvested off of this one to make recipe that we will be sharing with you in the future, but it is doing really good now. We harvested probably about 1.5 to 2 cups off of this last night, and you can see there's still plenty of growth on it. And I wanted to show you guys kind of the process of how these grow. So you have these little shoots. It's just like a basil plant. You have these little shoots that grow off the main stem. Each one of these will produce 2 new stems on the plant, so that's how you want to prune it. If you want to know more about pruning basil, go check out our video that we have up. Each one of those will produce 2 new stems, and then it starts to get bushier and fuller. You keep pruning it like that. Then you'll go over here and you'll see that there is a little floret kind of design that's starting to happen there. That's kind of the next stage. So it goes from having just 2 leaves in that little armpit of the plant to having a kind of cluster effect leaves. You'll see where those 2 leaves have now grown bigger and you're starting to see the actual flower, and that's where you can get seeds from. It also has a little bit more of the anise flavor to it, and it is a really fun attribute on the basil plant. Most basils you don't want to go to seed because it kind of really makes them bitter. However, on Thai basil, those little buds and flowers actually lend to a really nice flavor profile and give you more of the true flavor of Thai basil. So this is the one that you'll want to let go to seed. And I love to just take those little seed pods and break them apart. They're each like little individual things, and then kind of sprinkle them on salads or on my dish just to give that little tiny pop, kind of like you would do pepper, but of the anise flavor. So there you can see it kind of starting to grow and get bigger in the cluster. The last pepper in our pepper row is the Thai pepper. These ones are so fun because they're long and skinny and they're just a totally different looking pepper. You'll see that it's almost like ornamental looking. It kind of looks like a little arrangement of peppers amongst actual leaves. And this one is one that will progressively get spicier as the season goes along. It is one that will turn red when it is ready to be picked. You can eat them at the green stage, at all the transitional color stages, but the spice and the flavor profile is best on these when they are red in color. This weekend, my nephews were over. They stayed the night, and I let them do artwork on my flat stones that were in my walkways, and I just wanted to show that off. This cute little flower was done by my oldest nephew. Isn't it sweet? I love it so much. And then this one got kind of washed away, but this one was done by a collaboration between my husband and my youngest nephew. It was a flower that my oldest nephew stepped on accident, and it kind of smudged it, so the little white up at the top my youngest nephew put on there to fix the flower and make it a whole flower. So there's that one. I never got the story on this one, but that's another one done by my youngest nephew. And this one I just think is adorable. So evidently my youngest nephew drew a submarine on here, and then he put it in water. So there's actually a submarine drawn underneath of it. You can see little glimpses of something else underneath of there. And then it's underwater. So that's my youngest nephew's artwork, and I just love it, and I think the story is so cute. So that is a submarine underwater. The last piece of artwork that got some water on it, but I can still show it, is my oldest nephew, and he drew a rainbow over a tree. Isn't that so cute and happy? I just love these. It's like combining all my favorite things in one space. The garden, my 3 favorite boys in the world, and art. So I just loved it and thought I'd share it. The watermelon plant, as you can see, is growing a lot of foliage right now. I haven't had any more fruit set on it, but I believe the reason why is because this bad boy at the very bottom, usually when your plant is producing fruit right away, sometimes all the energy is going to go into that fruit and you won't see more fruit come on till a later harvest. Normally what I would do is I actually go in and I take off the first fruit on every plant and then let the plant kind of grow, establish, and then you'll tend to get multiple fruits on your plant right away. The reason I did not do that with this one is because it got a really late start and I wasn't sure if we were going to get even a harvest off of it because it was almost a month behind everything else in the garden. So I wanted to make sure that I got something off of it, that it wasn't just wasting a space in my garden. It is a beautiful plant, so I love looking at it, and we'll probably get more off of it once this one starts to ripen up. Boy, the birds are at it this morning, man. They are loud and giving you a show. Anyways, so this is the sweet baby watermelon and it's growing great. It's doing really good. You can see it's a good sized watermelon, doing as it should. I'm gonna try to not support it. If I start feeling like there's stress on it, I will support it, but you know, everything that I've seen says that they can grow on trellises, so why not be the experiment for you guys? We have our Petite de Gris melon. This plant is a French varietal melon that is going to be about the size of a cantaloupe. And this is the one that I was telling you guys has more caramel attributes. I pruned this one back this week. I kind of thinned it out, redirected all of its limbs so that I could see what was in there so that it could give more of its energy to growing fruit. And while doing so, I stumbled across this. How long it's been there? Not sure. Didn't even know it was existing in my garden, but boy am I happy. So here's our first big Petite de Gris that we have growing. And as you can see, it's substantial. Not really sure how I missed it. Kind of mystifies me that I even did. But through pruning it, I was able to see there was a lot of little fruit in there. And then I found that there was more bigger fruit throughout it. And down here is the one that I knew about. I was aware of that one, thought that was the first one. Little did I know it was not. Around to the other side, you'll see that through pruning it and thinning it, I've found way more melons throughout here than I even thought that I had. There's one there. You'll see there's a bunch of new growth through here, new shoots that are coming off, new blossoms, and then we have another big melon. So the plant that I thought wasn't really doing a whole lot, I saw a lot of blossoms. I saw a lot of littler fruit like this that wasn't growing, and I was like, well, that's really strange. Why is it not growing? Because the energy is going into those bigger ones. So this is going to be exciting. We will make sure that in a video we talk about it whenever we taste test it, because this is a new variety for us, and we are both really excited to give this one a try. Panning out, you can see that I have mutilated my cucumber plant again. It did help us to produce more fruit off of it the last time that we did it. I actually saw a significant incline in how much fruit was being produced on the cucumber plant. So we wanted to make sure to encourage that. I noticed again that the bees were only hitting exterior blossoms, so clearly from that we're not going to get new fruit setting unless there is stuff on that very far outside. I went in, pruned it. We're going to get some better energy to those fruit so that they can grow and continue to do what they're supposed to do. And in addition to that, new shoots will come, more blossoms will come. We will actually get a better yield of cucumbers. One thing I did find out through doing research on cucumbers, because of the fact that my cucumber plants were not producing very well, is that they can take 2 to 3 months before they even start to get female blossoms opening up on them. So be mindful of that as well in your garden space. I'm going to take you over to the other side. On the other side, there are little new fruits that are starting to set on it. There were other ones that I found along the way through thinning it out. I could actually see them right here. There is a video on pruning cucumbers coming up. That will be the next video that I produce. It will be helpful, I think, to you guys just to kind of see the process of what I do and how these plants really do fill back in, and how it is beneficial to the cucumbers. The Thelma Sanders is coming along beautifully. This little branch right here likes to assault me every time that I come in and out of my garden. Even though this one is in the aisle, it's going to continue to remain in the aisle because it is one that is connected to this little buddy over here that's not so little anymore. Our Thelma Sanders acorn squash is growing. It's huge. I can't believe how much it's grown in just one day. Yesterday when I was looking at it, I noticed that the stems were getting really dark, and I was like, oh, these are going to start getting big. Well, in one day's time, this thing has probably almost doubled in size. Maybe not doubled, but like half its size. So the reason I'm leaving that main shoot off of it of branch is because that will help. If water for some reason isn't going to that, it'll drain out of this leaf first, and it's really good to help with the growth of your squash. You can see over here, here's that other one that's about a day ahead. These are getting very big. You can see in my hand, they're pretty close to the size they'll be. They get a little bit bigger than that. So at this point, it is kind of that last phase of growing and then starting to ripen up. The purple tomatillo plant is yielding like nobody's business. There are so many tomatillos on this thing, as I continually tell you guys each and every week, but it continues to grow. This is doing really good for us in our garden. Zach and I have only had tomatillos in like salsa and things like that, but I had one that came off a little early, and it was really good. I just ended up frying it in a pan with my zucchini and tomatoes, and that thing was really delicious. So we're pretty excited to actually have a lot of tomatillos, because I had no idea that I liked tomatillo just by itself. It was this purple variety. It was really sweet, and it was just fruity, and it tasted really good. So we're really excited about that. So showing you the phases of it, you're gonna have those little tiny ones like that. That's the first production of it. Then it kind of goes to this hollow husk. The husk begins to fill in and then it'll start to split. And then from there, one like this, where the husk starts to split, dry up, the fruit becomes revealed, and then it will start to darken and change colors. That's how you kind of watch the progression of your tomatillos. My green tomatillo is still growing tall like a tree versus short and bushy like purple tomatillo. I believe I have mentioned, but I will mention again, tomatillos need 2 plants in order to grow. If you find that you are not producing tomatillos on your plant and you only have one, that is why. They require 2 plants in order to produce their fruit. They don't have to be the same kind of tomatillo, but they do need to be 2 tomatillo plants. And you'll see here, we're actually starting to get fruit that is growing and getting bigger on the green tomatillo plant, along with a bunch of new ones. So I'm kind of thinking this variety is one that just grows tall and now it's starting to produce. We are going to have to tie this up, but the green tomatillo likes to shade the rest of the garden off, which we are kind of finding to be a problem. So I suggest don't put it in front of things that need to have sun. Make sure that this is going to be at the end of your aisles, because it can reach and get tall and get to the sun, can also cause shade on other plants, which will slow down their production. Then we have the Black Beauty zucchini that you can see is still not really producing female fruit. I am not sure what's going on. My speculation is that this is not getting enough sunlight every day. We'll see what happens, but I'm starting to assume that's the problem, is that it's just not getting enough sun to give it the energy it needs for those blossoms on the female ones to open up. I'm not giving up hope. It's all a learning process. That's the thing to remember. Every garden is a learning process, and we only get better each and every year for the new problem to arise that year. I'm still holding out that I'm going to get zucchinis, and that is just a problem that we're facing currently, not a long haul problem, but we will keep you posted on that. We have the Ronde Denise, and you can see here putting potassium and phosphorus on it to create more blossoms definitely worked for this one. This little bad boy here has been setting on male blossoms all week long. I need to come out and actually trim those off. You'll see that there are female ones in there that are starting to get bigger and grow, and we're going to pick off this male blossom right now, and you'll see why. I always kind of like tap the petal so that if there's any of the pollen on the petals itself, it falls in to the area that the stamen's in. And you're going to tear those leaves off. You're going to tear those petals off, correction. And that is going to release that stamen and all the pollen that is on it. And we're going to come over to the female blossom, and we're going to just kind of rub that stamen and the pollen all over the inside on the ovary portion of this fruit. And we're just making sure that that pollen is getting in there, so that way this will actually produce. Now, if you have a lot of pollinators, you don't necessarily need to hand pollinate. I am growing my pollination colony because of the fact that this was just yard before. The bees aren't aware that there's really a space back here. They're learning, but it is causing me to have to come in and hand pollinate these things, especially the things like my squash and zucchini, because the bees tend to show up a little bit later in the morning, and by that point these blossoms have already closed back up. So the other thing that I'll do is I'll break off the stamen part itself and I'll just kind of set it in there. It kind of just ensures that once this closes up, there is pollen that is still remaining inside there, and I'll just kind of tap the male part into the female part and just make sure that there's pollen on it. If you look right here, you'll see that there's little tiny particles of pollen that have gotten inside that plant. So this really should fertilize that female and should give us another ronde niece. So hopefully that's what we'll get off of it. You'll see that I have some new female blossoms coming on as well, lots of male ones, and hopefully we are getting out of the phase of not getting anything off this plant. Hopefully we'll go through the same thing with that zucchini plant as well. And now we've come to tomato row. Over here we have our peach tomato. This one is that one that is going to be peach in color, and it has little tiny peach fuzzies on the skin. This one will be a fun one to try. Like I said, I haven't tried this one, but I like interesting varietals. And what gets more interesting than a tomato with little tiny fuzzies on it? So we, as you can see, have plenty to try. This one is doing really well for us. We've got great clusters, and we have our first one that is blushing on there. Another set of clusters down here. I want to say this is actually one of the highest producing tomatoes that we have in our garden. There's quite a bit on each one, and they just kind of seem to keep popping up. We have underneath the shade cloth, this one has almost reached the complete top up there, still getting new growth off of it and everything, so it'll be fun to see that one. Then we have our Kellogg breakfast. This one hasn't been producing as much. The ones that we do have are pretty decent sized ones. Virginia Swedes. Look at that cute little ruffling on it. They're nice, good sized tomatoes too. As you can see, all the tomatoes are definitely getting big. They have no problem growing right now. They're doing pretty good for us. I need to come in here and reroute everything and retrain it and stake it and all that stuff. Thin it out. It's amazing how fast they need to be pruned. If you need more tips on pruning tomatoes, I did do a video on that. We have the Early Girl. This is the first one that we got a tomato off of. Not surprising, since the name is Early Girl. It is one of the earlier producers in the garden. They're kind of a small, not quite saladette tomato, but pretty close in size to a saladette. They're pretty small. Then we have the Cherokee Purple. This one is another big boy. You can see just giant tomatoes on this one. And we have our first one that is blushing, and it looks like it did crack a little bit on that one. That can be caused by inconsistent watering, so I must be not watering the same each time, but that's another good producer for us. When I was out here the other day, I was kind of just like counting to see how many tomatoes we have, and each row I was counting at least 50 tomatoes in. I think there's far more, but I just was going off of the ones I could very clearly see. You can see there the shade cloth is working. We do have more blossoms coming on. And then we have our Sweet Millions cherry tomato. We got new blossom, new fruit. I think they're really cute when they're first setting on fruit. The fruit's really tiny and cute, and I just think they're adorable. And then we got this big cluster here. It goes out and long from the plant, which is funny because the other clusters were really like clustered together, but that one's just has a mind of its own, I guess. It's the black sheep of the plant. Then we have the second little grouping of red ones. Last but not least, we have our sauce row. As you can see over here, we do have them reaching the top of our shade cloth again. So apparently I'm going to have 12 feet tall tomatoes before the end of the season. We do see that there are blossoms on there that are still producing, and there are ones that are going sterile. So again, shade cloths are not 100% foolproof way of preventing those sterile blossoms like this. However, it will help to slow down the sterilization of those blossoms and give you new fruit on them. So it is a great way to extend your growing season and not have your plant get spent as soon as you get to that 90-degree weather consistently. So I strongly do advise to do shade cloths if you are consistently above 90 to prolong and get more growth off of your tomatoes. So that's the Corday Blue. Remember, we have two plants of that one. And as you can see, we are still periodically finding blossom end rot throughout the garden. I had a feeling this was going to be something we were going to face. Because this ground that we're growing in has only been grass and it hasn't been the best condition. There's been more weeds and stuff like that the past couple years in this space. So I kind of had a feeling that there was going to be some imbalances and some issues with our tomatoes or just any plant really that we grew in here, because we're really working on rebuilding the soil. The soil when we first started this garden was very, very clay. It was very dense and water wasn't draining through it. So we put compost in our beds, and then on top of that we put a mulch that was like a ground conditioner that was specifically for clay soil to help kind of soften it and loosen it and really rebuild the soil. So the next couple years, I have a feeling that this garden space, we're going to kind of run into problems like that. But it's all a learning process. The garden is just a big experiment and classroom, and it's good for us to learn these things so that if we have problems in years to come, we know how to troubleshoot them or help other people troubleshoot them. So while it is disappointing to lose some of your fruit and labor and hard work, they're good lessons and great for us to learn, I guess. So while it is hard for us to lose some of that fruit, they are good lessons for us to have, even though in an ideal world it wouldn't happen. But it'll be kind of neat throughout the years to see how we actually turn the soil around and help the earth heal from how it has been. So the next three plants that we have are our San Marzinos. These are those really neat, long ones that look almost more like a pepper than they do a tomato. And these are really great for sauces because they have more of a meaty exterior. So that means there's going to be less juice and less seeds and more of the meat, which makes it to where your sauces have great taste and robustness to it, but they won't be watery and you won't have to boil it down forever. So let's take a listen. See how much more hollow those sound? But as you can see, we have our first one that is starting to blush on the line. The rest of them are starting to get transparent. See how up here we have that darkness that's starting to fade into kind of like a really pale, more translucent skin. And at the bottom we have that blushing. That's when the blushing starts on them. And as you can see, we have lots of tomatoes that are growing along our San Marzino plants. They are not struggling in any way to produce for us, which is great to see. Now these two plants are a little bit shorter than the other ones. You can see that, like this is the top of that plant. Up here is the top of the cherry tomato that's reaching above and beyond. This one actually needs to be tucked back into the shade cloth so it'll keep producing. But so those ones are shorter for some reason. I don't think that they're a determinant, but I'll find out for sure and let you guys know why they might be smaller or shorter if it's just a plant. So we have here our cute little Thumbelina-esque tomato. It is our cherry tomato that is called a yellow pear. That's actually the name, but it reminds me of Thumbelina and fairies, like I've told you in multiple videos. You're probably tired of hearing me say that, but they just bring me joy. They're just happiness in a little cherry. I don't know. They're just happiness in a little tomato. I don't know. They just bring me joy. And so you can see here, this is that same like translucening effect where the tops of them are that dark green that they've been all along, and the bottoms are turning kind of that pale. You can kind of see veining in them. That is those turning to a translucent enough skin that's thin enough so that they can start to change colors and ripen up for you. The 2023 growing season is clearly in full swing at this point. We are seeing growth on plants that were not growing, minus poor little Wilbur. I think that's just the runt of our garden. But we're also seeing more and more harvest coming on. We're getting things probably every other day out of the garden, which I know is just going to become more and more of a abundance for us, which will be really nice because then we can actually share it with other people. And I'm looking really forward to being able to kind of share out the bounty and share out the love to people of the blessings that we've been receiving in our garden space. So it's been really fun just to kind of watch the progress over the weeks. I actually look back on some of the previous garden tour videos, and it's just so crazy to see how much it actually changes in a week's time. And even now, looking back a month's time, it's like, my goodness, it has just absolutely changed. I had no idea, because when I was doing container gardening, it grew, but it grew slow. And the area that I was growing in containers to was like partial sun, so that wasn't great either. But it has been really fun just to kind of experience this new transition into in-ground gardening, getting more space, spending more time, getting more yield off of our plants, and actually having harvest and bounty come into our homes for me to be doing cooking and everything off of. We're really looking forward to some of the things that are coming and just interacting with you guys. So make sure that you're commenting down in the comment section. I try to respond to everybody. I'm not the best at responding immediately, but I do try to within a couple days respond back and just kind of build that community and that relationship. That's very much who I am as a person. I like to say, hey, how are you? And get to know you as well. So it's that way it's not such a one-sided relationship we have going here. So Monday we have short videos. Wednesday I have some kind of educational video, and on Saturdays we release our garden tours. But there are going to be more things coming in the near future as well. So make sure that you hit that subscribe button, like our videos, just do all the YouTube things. And remember that from humble beginnings, mighty things can grow if we just tend to them. Until next week, have a good one. Bye guys. Starting to explode. Let's take a look. That's so dumb. Glory, glory, hallelujah. That was dumb. Don't do that, Danielle. Only so much dumbness in the video. Come around to the other side. Ow! Assaulted by that plant every time. I don't remember what I was gonna say. And how the garden just quickly kind of takes off and does its own. Stop looking at me. He'll learn someday not to look at me when I'm talking to you guys because I get distracted. But anyways. Now I distracted myself. Zach, am I saying that right? Ronde Denise? Yep. Okay.